shutdown back in December 2011. And a bunch of folks from Texas went out there. We got covered with a tent, and it turns out that Occupy Austin was infiltrated by 6 undercover detectives from Austin PD, and they were working directly with the Fusion Center here in town. The Fusion Center, it's been around for a few years, but they were using that specifically to gather intelligence from web communications and human intelligence by infiltrating directly into our groups. One of the guys, this guy Deke Moore, he's actually involved in another grassroots organization in town that deals with human trafficking, because that's actually his squad within the APD. He's on the Vice Squad for human trafficking, but he has been involved for years with a quote-unquote grassroots organization, which is a legitimate organization, but he is, through that ability, able to gather intelligence that much better. So anyways, it's a very long and involved story. There's still a person in jail as a result of that action. His name's Eric Marquez, and he's in jail in Abilene right now. And it's completely political, the reasons as to why he was in there, and it is a very complicated story, and I'm making a documentary about it at the moment. It's going to be called Surveillance Eye. And go to surveillanceeye.wordpress.com. I'm making a journal of the progress of that documentary. There's already some entries up there. I'm reading there's going to be some letters from Eric being read very soon, and personal testimonies of the folks who are out there. But I just wanted to kind of give a primer as to how I'm thinking about all this stuff, because it's not just us. So there's a group out in Washington. They're called Port Militarization Resistance, and they've been going through the court process for a while. And the Restore the Fourth thing is very fitting, because they're suing the government for surveillance. What happened to them was very similar. They were infiltrated by the local fusion center in Washington, and that person, there was no entrapment involved, there was no arrests involved with that sort of thing. It was just data collection. He became an admin in their group and was just sending back their information. So there was like a tip-off, and they eventually found this person out. His name was John Towery. Is the name of the infiltrator. And so then they tried to sue the government based on infringements of the Fourth and the First, messing with their ability to assemble and freedom of speech and their privacy. And they've been trying to sue for a while, and the DOJ's been trying to throw it out. But recently they had some small court victories that have allowed it to continue. So I encourage folks to look into that as well. John Towery, Port Militarization Resistance, and we'll be actually getting an interview with some of the folks who are involved with that action out in Washington, because some of them actually helped. What we had to do in Austin was also find the identity of the undercovers. We got a tip-off. We didn't know who they were, so we had to go through a process of like finding out who they were, and it took tracking them back down to their high school and getting a high school yearbook photo to get the full name and eventually get an identity. But one of the folks from that group up in Washington helped out with the general info kind of collection stuff that happened later on, because we got all these emails, we got 300 pages of emails, we got pictures, got all sorts of stuff from this event. So we'll be getting an interview, and we'll be putting it up there on surveillanceeye.wordpress.com soon from those folks to get an idea and a perspective of what's happening in other places. Because within Occupy, the infiltration happened in I think Atlanta was one that got a FOIA about it, and Phoenix was another one, and New York was infiltrated. Like it was just rampant. So the part of the idea is to kind of make this a holistic sort of thing and understand what's happening all over the place in more or less similar kinds of ways. With us here in town, the infiltrators built these devices so that way we could get charges, these felony charges. But they invented the crime that we were being accused of, and it was a setup, and it's very possible that they're using it as justification for surveillance, for continued surveillance. There was a FOIA that came out recently from Bolton, Nebraska, and that involved TransCanada, and the FOIA mentioned essentially it was like a playbook. for police from TransCanada, and they were saying here's the kinds of charges you can get these guys on. And one of the charges was ours, and they used our case out in Houston, these lock boxes, these that folks within Tarson's have been using. But that's a Texas law, and so they couldn't apply it to Nebraska, but they had this whole litany of other charges. So this is certainly there's branches and roots and connections all over the place. So it's good to be mindful about all that kind of stuff. So I want to kind of open up with that and maybe talk a little bit about like continuing on. So I've been working with Occupy, and I do a lot of inter-Occupy stuff, right? So inter-Occupy is like networking between the different cities, between different Occupy. There's also sort of like general networking across the different countries. Folks in Spain, folks in England, folks in Germany, and that sort of thing. Occupy is global. Now, when you think about sort of like organizing national and local things like the March Against Monsanto we had recently, that was a global sort of organizing thing. Well, when you do that sort of practice, when you try and organize globally, that kind of puts you in that realm of, well, now you're talking with people in different countries, and are you now going to be surveilled? But that's sort of the nature of how we organize these days, because our problems are connected. So there's a lot of I guess connections with the prison stuff and thinking about continuing to organize and moving forward in like the digital age and as the world kind of becomes smaller. So I just sort of wanted to touch on that.
Hey, everybody is pissed off and has a big sign. Let's go get some visibility down by the street. There's nobody home here. I got 20 people with me. Anybody's invited.
So you have those options. You can hang out and if you're listening, you can go down. That's also cool. I think it's good. For us to act independently. I enjoy the sort of like the refresher on the Bill of Rights and stuff. Those are like high energy and whatnot. So it's cool. If folks want to do their own thing, that's very awesome. So I'm very thankful for the folks who want to hang out. I'm very thankful for the folks who want to hang out and listen. So that's a lot of what I have to say. How to solve these things? Like I mentioned, the folks up in Washington are actually pursuing the government, suing the government. If they're successful, it could set precedent against to ensure protections for the Fourth and the First. So I would encourage you all to follow those folks. Follow the Surveillance Eye documentary. We're on Twitter. Go to that website and exactly. And I guess that's pretty much it. I'm really looking forward to talking with folks after the thing when we get together and I think we're going to get together in a sort of group. Very last thing I'd like to mention. I hope that I see when I come to rallies and whatnot and gatherings, like there's all these new faces and all these fresh faces that I never see, and I hope that we will all see each other again, like continuing to get together and continuing to organize around these issues. Like I want to see you guys again and again, to not just make it one day and one rally and one event, that we continue to organize so that way we can ensure our freedoms. All right, so thank you guys.